What do ventricles, demi-mondaines, laudanum, and divorce have in common? They say that all good things must come to an end, even if they take forever and a day to get there.
It's been 84 years.
Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, I'm coming to you all with the final episode of The Gilded Age, Season 3, Episode 8, My Mind is Made Up. This episode is directed by Sally Richardson Whitfield and written by Julian Fellows and Sonia Warfield. So naturally, we pick up right where we left off last time, where George obviously was shot. But of course, instead of being taken to a hospital, which at this time was primarily for the poor, there's no other way to say it, he is taken to his home where he is laid out on the dining room table. Thankfully, Bannister is paying attention. He rushes inside and he lets Bertha know that a doctor is nearby. He, of course, has to make it clear that he's colored, and Bertha don't care. She's like, whatever, let's go. Let's get him here now. So we see Dr. Kirkland rushing over, and we see Marian taking over for Peggy as far as taking Dr. Kirkland's medical supplies over. And man, when I tell you, she immediately jumps on the table. She's helping to stop the blood. I mean, she went into action, and I was loving that. I mean, Marian is not a wallflower necessarily, but we don't necessarily see her in action quite like this. But I was very much impressed. And it was obvious that Bertha was too. But in the meantime, Bertha is panicking and, she's trying to comfort George. Dr. Kirkland is, just trying to give directions to everyone. I need towels. I need water. We're just trying to get this done and save this man's life as quickly as possible. He realizes that the bullet is near the left ventricle and it is currently stuck underneath his rib. I have to say, I have such respect. I mean, I have respect regardless, but when you really think about what goes into the medical field and everything that you see and have to deal with and have to really be mindful of when it comes to saving someone's life, it's bananas. But ultimately, Dr. Kirkland is able to remove the bullet, but then that means George goes into shock. Bertha is hysterical, and as of now, only time will tell how this is going to play out. We cut to the next morning where we discover that George is stable, but he's not out of the woods yet. We see the Russells' physician, Dr. Logan, rushing in, being extremely dismissive and disrespectful to William, of course. But he kind of has to walk that back when he realizes that William, Dr. Kirkland, is the reason why George is still alive. Unsurprisingly, Bertha is very thankful to Dr. Kirkland, and she trusts that she can count on his discretion, given that this is not something they want to leak out to the general public, to the police, no one. We finally see Larry burst in, and he's only just received the note this morning, so it's taken him a minute to get there, but he's naturally shocked and confused. But when everything does calm down, he has the chance to talk to Marian, and it's kind of the same old. I mean, Marian is obviously very sympathetic regarding what's happened, and she's been in the ringer. You can see the blood all over her dress, and he's very grateful to her. But of course, when it comes to their situation, he just doesn't appreciate the fact that Marian didn't trust him and just didn't believe him when he explained everything in spite of the lie. And she's like, look, you know my history and you know what I've been through. And he doesn't really want to hear that. And she's like, well, excuse me, you were the one who lied. And he says, but I lied to protect you. And I was just like, look, one thing I know in life, lies don't protect anybody. They're just kind of a Band-Aid and they're like a temporary fix. And it's not even it's not really a fix because you're just omitting something that at some point someone is going to have to find out later. And it's better that they know now. And I think the best thing you can do in life, and I've definitely learned this, is that you have to equip people with the truth. Because knowledge is power. We hear that all the time, but really, if you go out in the world unprepared and you just don't have knowledge and you're not being given truth about the reality of the world, some really bad things can happen. So obviously that's not this specific situation, but ultimately, you lying is not helping anyone. We could have circumvented a lot of this, but you got to own your part in this as well. So when it comes down to it, they're at an impasse. And it's clear that with everything going on with George and Larry dealing with that, their situation is going to remain on the back burner. We also see Gladys and Hector on a ship making their way to Newport, having heard the news in Southampton before they departed. And Gladys is naturally worried, but she's also somewhat at ease knowing that she and Hector are in a better space. There's so much to be done with Sidmouth now that Lady Sarah is out of here. And for the most part, they're solid, which is more than we can probably say about anybody else in the show right about now. When they finally make it to Newport, Gladys is very happy to see that the recently dismissed Adelheid is there once again to serve as her lady's maid. However, regarding the whole ball that they've come all this way for, apparently it's not going to be happening. Bertha feels that regarding what's happened to George, there's no point. She can't go through with it. And George feels differently. He's like, look, the only way we can get through this is to show a united front. And as was said before, if you cancel it, then that will give credence to rumors and speculation, and we can't have that. Speaking of rumors and speculation, we see Peggy having the conversation that she has been dreading to have with William. She lays everything out, and he's very much taken aback. He's shocked to learn all of this, and ultimately there's nothing she can really do about it. It's like you either accept it or you don't. But of course, the fact that she didn't just put this out there on the table to begin with obviously has muddied the water, so to speak. William, of course, needs time to walk and think this all over, but it's not looking too good, and Peggy is naturally devastated, and her mother is there to support her and comfort her and let her know that you are worthy of a man who gives you grace and cherishes you. And I'm like, truer words have never been said. It's not the most ideal situation, but if you can't look past it, then ultimately it says a whole lot more about you and your mother. We see a very interesting showdown between Dorothy and Elizabeth at the dress shop. And, of course, Elizabeth is doing all this grandstanding. She's so excited about the fact that William knows all about Peggy now. And Dorothy makes it very clear to her that it's amazing to me how you can see everyone else's flaws and mistakes but your own. I thought you were a pastor's wife. What about the scripture, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God"? It's clear that your privilege has given you the illusion that allows you to act without grace, manners, or impunity. I think it's time to get off that high horse. I was like, I know that's right. Yeah, and of course, Elizabeth is taking satisfaction in the fact that now William knows all about Peggy. He's changed his mind, and Dorothy says what I was already thinking, which is that, yeah, if he really believes that, if he chooses to believe that, then he was never really worthy of her. And that's that. We see Marian making her way to the Russells, where they both thank her for all her help. Bertha's wanting to buy her a new dress, and she's like, no, that's fine. But she is happy to see that George is doing much better. And after telling Marian about her actively going against the divorced women ban, she also makes it clear to Marian that she has obviously underestimated her, especially seeing how she handled herself with George. And she knows now that she is no feeble debutante. And as a result of this, she also is genuinely sad that things aren't going to be repaired between her and Larry. Marian just knows at this point that's up to Larry. And she can't do anything else about it. So as a result of that, Marian will not be showing up to the ball. We also see Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett, excuse me, I am so sorry. We see Oscar and Mrs. Winterton running into each other at the opera. And of course, at this point, Mr. Winterton has passed away. She is now a widow. And of course, this has now given Bertha the perfect opportunity to not invite her to the ball. And, Mrs. Winterton is taking it in stride. But Oscar's wheels are turning. Eventually, Oscar goes to see Bertha to see if he can convince her to invite Mrs. Winterton. And Bertha's like, I guess, but only if Marian comes. So naturally, Oscar makes his way to Marian. He's like, hey, so, cuz, How about that ball? We also see some really great moments with Jack where he swings by to visit the staff at the Van Rhijn household. And it's obvious that this isn't the end of him. And it's also signaling a new beginning, because we know that Jack and Bridget have always had a little bit of a vibe between them. But when she brings him over a lamb stew to his home and they sit and have a conversation, it's clear that something very special is only continuing to develop with the both of them. We also discover that regarding Mrs. Foster from the New York Heritage Society, that she has not been trying to shake Agnes down. As a matter of fact, she has been trying to offer her a vice president position on the board. And considering that we see Agnes finally relinquishing her seat at the head of the table, I think she is in a much better headspace regarding her new position, but realizing that she doesn't necessarily have to be in control, but it also doesn't mean that she's completely obsolete either. Jumping over to Dr. Kirkland, we see him telling his mother that he will not be attending the ball. Elizabeth does not understand why, and William immediately clocks her for spreading gossip and rumors and basically this whole mess that she's created. And William's father is just as upset. He lets Elizabeth know that this is not the first time you have sown calamity and heartbreak. I was like, oh, so she has a history. I mean, it's not surprising, but I mean, he clocked it for sure. So yeah, he shuts his wife down completely, and he talks to William and he lets him know that he gets to decide what type of man he wants to be. And no one else can make that decision but him. Jumping over to the Black Elite Newport Ball, which is just, the Black Elite scenes give me so much joy. It's just our history, my people. I love seeing it, for real. But yeah, it's a beautiful moment, but Peggy is not happy that she's even left the house. She's second guessing the whole thing. But considering that Arthur has made a donation, they have made a resolve to arrive as a unit, as a united family, and that's exactly what they've done. Eventually, Peggy is able to shake off her nerves, and she even accepts a dance from one of the young gentlemen at the ball. But then we see Dr. Kirkland / William making his way over to Arthur to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. And then we see William making his way across the dance floor, walking towards Peggy. And I am not going to lie, for about 0.5 seconds, I was like, I swear. Because I've seen Downton Abbey. I swear if William... if something bad happens, it just seemed like it was the perfect opportunity for something to go completely wrong, but it didn't. He makes his way to her. He is more than delighted, and to his mother's horror, William gets down on one knee and he proposes to Peggy. And she says yes. I was like, whew, all right. I didn't know if we were going to actually get there. I kind of felt like that might still be up in the air, but yeah, it looks like Peggy has found her happy ending, but I can't say the same for Elizabeth. Somebody call the paramedics. And as far as Bertha's Newport ball, given the conversation she had with Mrs. Astor will not be attending the ball because she refuses to allow the scourge of divorce to infect society, even if it means outcasting her own daughter. And in a similar scenario to the first season, Bertha is thinking, okay, is anyone going to show up? Is this all pointless? I mean, Hector and Gladys is here, but how is this about to go? And similar to that season 1 finale, everything goes off relatively without a hitch. Everyone arrives. We see Aurora. We see Charlotte. And, everyone is enjoying themselves. Everyone is impressed by the outdoor lighting that suddenly springs up. And yeah, considering that George and Mrs. Astor eventually show up, Bertha has once again come out on top. And Lord, we see the match made in something that's not heaven has solidified their union by coming up with a plot and a scheme and a scam to pose as a couple and get married. My lord, society is not ready, and neither am I. Charlotte and her mother seem to be in a much better space. There seems to be some genuine love and affection there, which is shocking. But Charlotte is obviously touched that her mother has shown up for her. Although Mrs. Astor is not really happy to see the ballroom full of tricksters and demi-mondaines. But Mrs. Fish feels differently. She tells Bertha that this party is full of the future. We also see Larry and Marian having a moment together where, after an earlier conversation with George, Larry has seen more clearly the error of his ways, and he apologizes to Marian, and Marian does admit that she panicked and she assumed the worst, but, she's open, for them getting back on the right path going forward. Larry knows that they're going to make mistakes in the future, and he's not really sure how they're going to handle those obstacles. They may not be able to solve everything right now, but at least they can dance. The Russells, the Van Rhynes, the Scotts, all's well that ends well, right? Wrong. Despite George's appearance at the ball, he informs Bertha that he is going back to New York with Larry and that they'll still be staying at the Union Club and that he only showed up to the ball to protect his business. George still can't forgive his wife for making him do what he did to Gladys. It doesn't matter that it's all worked out now, he still feels the same way. He understands that she's ruthless because he's ruthless as well. But he feels that he's ruthless in business and not with the people that he loves. Bertha is trying to point out that she did this to help empower Gladys in a world where there are very few options for women, which is valid, even as foul as the whole situation is. Consider the circumstances. It's not great, but she has a point. It's honestly baffling to me how George is trying to paint this situation, because while there is validity in what he's saying, there's hypocrisy as well. So I'm just like, okay, George, sure. Have your moment, friend. Basically, this near-death experience has made George re-examine his life, and he does not like what he sees. It's not exactly a divorce announcement, but it absolutely is the beginning of a trial separation, and it won't be ending until George is sure he knows what he wants for his life. Just as Bertha is trying to get a grasp on everything that is happening as George is departing, she discovers from Gladys that the future Duke or Duchess of Buckingham is officially on the way, which means she will soon be a grandmother. And so if I were to sum up this whole situation regarding Bertha and her journey throughout this season, I would simply say, as I've said a few times before, you got what you wanted, but you lost what you had. And that closes out episode 8, My Mind is Made Up. And that also closes out season 3 of The Gilded Age. I have to say, obviously, this was a really, really solid season. Some things that worked and some things that didn't. I would say what worked the most for me was seeing the expansion of the Black Elite storyline. Peggy, her family, her community, I loved all of that. Honestly, I'm kind of here for a spinoff. But at the same time, the only reason I don't want the spinoff is because I also want there to be all of these eyes being shown this history. Black, white, Hispanic, whoever's watching the show, I want everyone to see it and not be able to get away from it. Not saying that there aren't people who will support, but I like the fact that it's there. It's a central focus of this show. So I'm here for both, but I do like the fact that all the people who try to relegate our history to certain types of narratives, it's here in plain sight. So yeah, so I'm not mad at it, but yeah, I still appreciate that that's such a big part of this show. Yeah, I just think all the storylines, the stakes, everything really worked. I mean, the costumes are always on point. I liked the setup for certain storylines as well. If there's anything I didn't like, I would say that I feel like Bertha's sister was kind of a waste. I didn't think there needed to be anything like soap opera-esque, and she didn't need to just be firing off barbs the entire time, but I just felt like my thing is, I wanted to have her as a character to at least give us a greater insight into Bertha, and that was the biggest fumble for me. It's like I didn't need her just saying shady stuff the entire time, although that would have been fun. But it's like I wanted to get an insight into her as a person, because this is the person who knew her before she became Mrs. Russell. You know what I'm saying? I felt like we just didn't get that. We didn't see her really interact with Glad. Like, it just, I wasn't really feeling that. I don't like that because of, once again, the episode order, that we are rushing storylines, which means that we get this really great setup with Gladys as, you know, this bride to this man she doesn't know, the Duke of Buckingham, becoming the Duchess. But then we immediately like cut all of that, you know, turmoil, emotional depth, all the confusion, disorientation, all of that, by having Bertha immediately jump in, and then like they're all good, you know, they're on the same page, you know, they're going against Lady Sarah. And I was just like, and in the moment, like for what it was, I enjoyed it because that's great to see. But the connective tissue from this moment to that didn't work. And I saw some of you saying that in the comments, and I didn't really touch on it at that point because I just was keeping it relegated to the episode. But I really didn't like the fact that we just jumped. And again, I think that's because of the episode order. Like, we need more episodes. It's not just because I enjoyed the show. Yes, but certain storylines cannot work if you don't give the time to develop them the right way. So yeah, I'm sure there are some other things that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but those were probably my biggest pros and cons. Still easily the best season we've had thus far, and I'm excited that we've been renewed for a season 4. I'm not surprised because, you know, it's a relatively, well, I won't say small, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it's a seemingly small audience compared to something like Game of Thrones or some of the other shows that pop up on HBO. But we're here, okay? And we matter, and I am so glad to see the show continuing to gain popularity when shows are getting canceled and put on pause and all this other stuff. The Gilded Age is going strong. Shout out to all my people who have been in there in the fight, supporting the show, of which I am one of many. So yes, as always, thank you all for your patience and your support. Lots of things going on, but it's a lot of great things going on. And this show, even with everything else going on, is still a big part of my happiness and my excitement and just my appreciation. And shout out to Julian Fellows, shout out to all the directors, the cast, crew, everybody who does everything to make this show as wonderful and enjoyable and just all the things that it is. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you with the movies.